We're about 4 miles east of Muleshoe, visiting in the home of Mr. and Mrs. Charlie Barnett. We're talking with Mrs. Charlie Barnett. And Mrs. Barnett, for a number of years, you lived about 3 miles from right where we're sitting now at the old James Ranch house, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
What years did you live there at the James Ranch house?
From 52 to 71.
1952 to 1971. And you were telling me, actually, when you were living there with your late husband, Johnny McMurtry, that you really didn't always stay in the big ranch house. Where did you stay?
Well, I stayed in the big ranch house at night all the time. I always slept there. I never slept down in the other house. But we stayed down in what we call the cookhouse most of the day, because he had his desk down there, and he operated from there, tell the boys where to go to work and so on. And we would come down early of a morning and eat breakfast with the cowboys. And I would always get in the pickup and go out with Johnny wherever he went, because he was crippled, and couldn't speak normally. And I had to kind of interpret for him. And so I stayed outside more than I stayed inside. And then in the evening, we would come back up to the big house and stay till morning then.
Now, the big house was actually built in what year?
1913.
1913. Just imagine what Muleshoe area looked like in 1913. It's hard to imagine, isn't it?
It certainly is. I don't think I could imagine it, because it was quite different even when I came.
What year did you come to this area, Miss Barnett?
Well, 1952, when I married Johnny.
In 1952 was the first time. It has changed a lot since then.
Yes.
Now, Mrs. Barnett, who told you about how the ranch house became the James Ranch home? Who told you the stories of the ranch house?
Mr. Halsell and Johnny McMurtry.
Now, who was Mr. Halsell?
He was the owner of the Mashto Ranch and several other big ranches over the area. He is well known everywhere, Mr. Ewing Halsell. He's one of the best known cattlemen, well, I guess in the state of Texas for that matter.
Is he deceased?
Yes, he died in, I believe, 66.
Now, did he ever actually live in this immediate area, Mr. Halsell?
No, he didn't live here, but he managed the ranch here. And, of course, he had his foreman, Johnny Merle, all the time. Well, since I've known him, he had Johnny Merle as the foreman. But he would come out and spend weeks here and visit with us and visit with different neighbors here.
Now, Mr. Halsell was from where then?
Well, he was living in San Antonio then. He and his wife lived in San Antonio.
Now, the Halsell Ranch, where is it located?
East of here. It joined the James Ranch on the east, and it's a real large ranch.
Do you know how large the James Ranch was supposed to have been?
Well, about 6,000 acres is what that I had leased, what we had leased at the time.
Now, Mrs. Barnett, Johnny McMurtry and Mr. Halsell told you that this house was built in 1913. How was it built, and why was it built?
Well, the story that they told me was that Bill Halsell, that was Ewing Halsell's father, lived in Kansas City, and of course he had ranches all around, but he and his family lived in Kansas City, and he had a secretary, and John James came up to visit. Came to Kansas City to visit with them at one time, and he met the secretary, and they become attached to each other and married, and Mr. Halsell advised her to have him build a house, because they said if you don't, you'll spend the rest of your life down there in a little red house. So he built this house for her, and they moved out in, I don't know just when. I guess it must have been about 1913 when they married, about the same time they built the house. I don't know whether it was before or after they married, but That was a story they told me.
Well, he certainly did build a house for her, didn't he? And a house that has lived on into the history of Bailey County. Now, Mr. Jim Casson has given this home to the Muleshoe Heritage Foundation for it to become a permanent part of the history of Muleshoe, and it'll be moved into town. And Mrs. Barnett, I was wondering about Mrs. Janes. Do you happen to know anything about her and her life? What was her name? Do you know that?
Uh, Anne, I believe. Anne was her name, and let's see, she died in 1918 during the flu epidemic, and left the little girl, John Ann Janes, who was Bill Wallace's mother, and she had the one child, and she and Jarrett Janes both died during that flu epidemic, and he was partner to John Janes in the ranch.
Was Jarrett Janes and John Janes brothers?
Yes, that they were brothers.
And did they establish the ranch together, do you think?
Yes, they did. They established the ranch together, and when John married, I think Jarrett sold out to John, or it might have been just come to him when Jarrett died. I really don't know that story. So.
And so, actually, it's really sad to know that maybe Mrs. John H. Janes only lived in the home maybe around 5 years.
That's about the time I think that she lived there.
Now, when you moved to the ranch house, it was 1952, and was the house changed from the time of 1913, or was it about the same?
I understand that it's just left about the same, just about the same as was, that they hadn't moved any of the furniture or anything, that it was just left.
Did she leave a will asking that it not be changed, or why had it not been changed, or do you know?
No, I don't know why it wasn't, but I'm sure that she did not leave a will saying it wasn't to be changed. It was just, she left a will saying that it would go to her son, Bill Wallace, when he was 30 years old, and she felt like he would be old enough to manage it and all that then. But that was about the only thing.
That would be her grandson, wouldn't it? No, her son.
That's her son, yes.
Dr. Wallace, who lives in Amarillo, is her son.
Right.
Now, the house, was there anything unusual about the building of the house?
Well, I understand that it was the first fabricated house moved into the area, and I understood that John Janes hauled it from Bovina with an ox team. He had an ox team here at the time, and he hauled all the material from Bovina. At that time, it was shipped from Sears and Roebuck into Bovina.
And he ordered it from Sears and Roebuck, and it came probably on the train to Bovina, don't you imagine? And then, is that right?
That's the story that I was told.
And then they put it on the ox cart and brought it to Muleshoe. Now, when you moved into the house, tell us a little bit about what the living room looked like.
Well, it had chairs and a library table, and was about all, and a piano, a player piano.
A player piano.
And that was about all that it had. It didn't have a couch or anything, just a lot of rocking chairs and a library table.
What about the lights in the home?
Well, they were unusual fixtures. At first they were the gas lights, and then they changed them to use batteries. What are they called? Carbide, yes. And then we didn't get electricity out there till after I moved out there.
Oh, really? So when you moved to the Janes Ranch house, there was no electricity in 1952?
No, just just the lights that, well, yeah, a light plant, just from batteries, that's what it was. And that's...
Now, in the living room, was there a fireplace?
Oh, yes, a big, nice fireplace. And above it was a beautiful clock. But it would not run. We had it worked on a number of times, and we never got it to operate.
Did you use the fireplace?
Some, yes, some we used it, but not a great deal.
Now, what about beside the fireplace? Were there some bookcases, or what was beside the fireplace?
On each side there was a beautiful bookcase with a glass front and a big, let's see, that's about all I can remember about that.
Now, what about the floors? What were they covered with, or were they covered? Were there bare hardwood floors, or what?
They were hardwood floors, but they were covered by throw rugs, just about, I would say about 3 by 5 throw rugs. They completely covered the floor. But they were ordered from Sears and Roebuck too.
Now, the furniture that we're talking about being in the home when you moved there, had Johnny McMurtry bought this furniture, or had it been furniture that the Janes had bought, or where did the furniture come from?
Well, I understand that it came from Sears and Roebuck too at the time that they built the house. Now, those bedrooms were carpeted. They had a beautiful blue carpet on them. And let's see, I believe there were just 2 bedrooms and then a long entertainment hall along the end upstairs. And I guess
Two, on the first floor, besides the living room, what else was there on the first floor?
well, there was 2 bedrooms and a bath and a kitchen and dining room with a little pantry between. And that was what was on the bottom floor.
Was the kitchen modern for 1952 when you moved there?
Not quite, no. It was left, it had a big range, one of those old-fashioned ranges, and old-fashioned ice box and all that.
It really was an ice box that you put ice in it.
Yes, just a big box that you put ice in. Of course, they didn't have refrigeration in that time, not refrigerators.
Well, now, did you have a refrigerator, or did you use the ice box?
Oh, we put in a refrigerator after we got the electricity, because we needed we didn't eat up there. We ate down at the cookhouse all the time. We had an old cook that had cooked there for 18 years.
And do you remember her name?
His name.
Oh, it was his name. Excuse me.
Yes, it was Andy Parsons. I think all the people around here knew him.
Andy Parsons was the cook there for some 18 years.
Yes, and such a nice old fellow that he died about a year after Johnny did.
What year did Johnny McMurtry die?
1965.
In 1965. And what year did you move from the James Ranch house?
In 1971.
In 1971. Now, thinking back to 1952 up to 1971, were there changes made in the house besides the electricity during those years?
You mean after I moved out?
Yes. No, while you were living there, did you all make changes in the house?
No, nothing, only we put in a more modern stove and we put in a refrigerator. And other than that, we didn't make any changes in the house.
Now, how many stories is the James Ranch house?
2.5.
It's a 2.5 story.
Above ground, 2.5 above ground.
Now, on that top story, what is up there?
Well, there was 2 bedrooms and a bath and a little hall that you entered into, and I don't know, 2 or 3 little rooms that I don't even know what they were for. Yeah, yes.
Upstairs there was the entertainment room.
That's where it was, all across one end of was a big entertainment room. But I was trying to think how we entered that room, and it was through a hall. So that was about.
Where was the master bedroom, or which room did you all use as the master bedroom?
Well, we downstairs because Johnny couldn't climb the stairs. And the master bedroom that the Jameses had was up there on the east side, and then the little girl's room was right next to theirs, only it was curtained off. It didn't have a door between, just a curtain, and had nice white furniture for the little girl and so on. And the other one had a poster bed and nice bedroom furniture, we'll say.
Now, talking about it being an entertainment room upstairs, did you all ever entertain at the James Ranch?
Well, we did. Yes, we did. We had a few entertainments.
You and Charlie entertained.
Yes, more than anything.
You enjoyed that.
Very much. So, well, of course, we had our parties, our dinners, when that we would have Mr. Halsell or a group over, we would have him up there, and several of the friends. We would have dinners up there.
I had always heard that possibly that buffalo were even barbecued sometimes.
Oh, yes, we'd have a buffalo barbecue ever so often. He would, they had a McMurtry family reunion, and when it come Johnny's time to have the reunion, he would have a buffalo barbecue. And he would put up a buffalo and fatten it out for about 90 days. Just a young buffalo, and really, it was good. It was really good meat. Most people enjoyed it. But the other McMurtrys would tease him about it, would tell him that they just went out and killed an old bull buffalo and all that sort of thing, you know. And I think a lot of people believed it. And in fact, his nephew did, and he wrote the book about it, you know.
Yes, his Larry McMurtry.
Yeah. But he got it all wrong, and it was amusing. First, it made me so mad at him because he wrote that. But it was, oh, you know, kind of in fun, I suppose, because they always kidded Johnny like that.
And what was the name of that book we're talking about? Do you remember?
I Hang My Saddle on the Wall, I believe, was the name of the book.
Johnny McMurtry had how many brothers and sisters?
There was 12 in the family, 8 boys and 4 girls.
So there was a very large family. Now, you came to the James Ranch home in 1952, but had he come there several years before?
Yes, I don't know just how long, but he'd been there several years, and probably about in 41 or 2 is when that he leased the ranch and moved over there.
Johnny McMurtry was a real cowboy, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. You know, he had a ranch right joining that and across the tracks south of the ranch. So putting them all together, it made him quite a ranch.
I wonder what year he came to Bailey County.
1917.
In 1917. So really he came real soon after the James brothers. Did he know them personally or not?
Yes, he did. He knew them real well. I think Johnny was one of the first county commissioners after they organized.
Is that right? He was one of the first county commissioners in Bailey County after the county was organized.
He helped organize the county, I understand, and then he was one of the first commissioners.
I was reading recently in the Muleshoe High School Annual that he also was trying to develop a strain of cows. Is this right? Were they white? Is that right?
White Herefords.
White Herefords. Well, did he?
Yes, some beautiful animals. I have some of the pictures of them down at Zapata, but not here. Yes, they're out in the pasture now, and we still have some of the White Herefords, and they are beautiful animals. All the conformation of a Hereford, but they're white.
Now, we talked about the first floor, and we've talked about the second floor. Now, what was above that second floor?
Well, I guess just a big attic. I climbed up there one time and looked in, and there were pipes everywhere, and that's all that I could see of it. Well, I'm sure it was where that the water came in, you know, and went down to the furnace, because there was a furnace in the basement.
You know, I had never had the opportunity of going in the James Ranch until just recently, several weeks ago. But the story I always heard, there is a bank vault in the home. Where is it located?
Well, it is a special room for it, and it is, I would just say it's in the southwest corner of the basement. See, the basement is a full basement underneath, and it had that, and then the old furnace, and then a great big room out. They called it a playroom for the children out.
Well, And it had John H. James' name right over the vault. Do you think the Cowboys maybe used this as sort of a bank, or was it just used for John James personally, do you think?
Yes, it was his personal property, and after Johnny moved in there, we used it. We kept our things in the vault, things that we needed to keep in there, you know. And of course, someone broke in there one time and broke the lock, so we didn't use it anymore. I don't know why they took something and
Now, down in the basement, I thought it looked like maybe there was a washroom down there. Was that true?
yes, yes, there was a washroom and another bathroom down there, and of course, a coal room, a room where they put the coal, and I guess that was about all that was in the basement.
The boiler or the furnace just looked enormous down there.
It was very large, a very large boiler.
How do you think they ever got it down there?
I wonder, and I don't know how they'll ever get it out.
I'm thinking the same thing.
Yeah, it is an enormous thing. I'm sure it's very heavy, but I'm sure that there's people that know how to get it out.
Now, what about the James children? There were how many children of John H. James and his wife Ann?
Just one.
Just one daughter.
No son.
Oh, Dr. Wallace, I thought the daughter, it was John Ann.
Oh, you mean, yes, yeah, just one daughter, John and James.
Okay, and then her son is Dr. Wallace, is that right?
Right, she just had one child, so that was...
Now, did John James remarry, or what happened to him after his wife died?
Well, I don't think he ever married again. I don't even know when he died, but I know that he died quite a while.
He must not have stayed around here, do you think?
He would just come and go. He would come out from Amarillo and stay down at the place for a while, and he would give dinners and invite some of the people out occasionally, and that was even after his wife died. He and the daughter, John Ann, would come out.
So they stayed on in the home after Mrs. James died?
No, they just come and went. I don't know. Now, I just don't know where that they went at first after her death. I'm sure that he had to have someone take care of the little girl.
Right. Now, for that house to be so old, it seems like to me not very many people have lived there, do you think?
No, I'm sure that they haven't. There was just one other person besides Johnny that had rented that. I think they leased it for a short time, probably 2 or 3 years.
And when you and Charlie moved out of the house in 72 or 71?
I believe it was on New Year's Day of 72.
Okay. New Year's Day of 72. Who moved into the home? Dr. Who?
Nace, Dr. Nace.
Dr. Nice. We had to think about that name and be sure. That's right. That's fine. Dr. Nice, and he lived in Littlefield, and he lived there several years in that home. Charlie, come here and talk to me a minute about living over in the James. Oh, he did not live there.
We married in the fall of 71, and then we went on down to Zapata around and stayed for a while and came back, and then we moved over to his house on New Year's Day in 72, which would just make it a very short time. No, Charlie never lived.
Well, I was thinking that he lived for a period of time there in the house, you know. And did you enjoy living in the home?
Oh, yes, I enjoyed the ranch life very much.
Do you miss it?
Yes, I have missed it.
Oh, I think that would be so exciting to live in a house like that. But how do you clean a house that large?
I had it done.
That's a good way.
Yes, there was a couple of black ladies that lived in Muleshoe, and I would have them come out every so often and clean the house. And we just cut off a part of it, you know, didn't live in all the house.
Yeah.
We just shut off the upstairs and lived in the lower floor.
Now, Johnny McMurtry, you were saying could not talk normally. What had happened to Johnny McMurtry?
He had cancer of the throat and had to have his voice box removed.
And was this just a short while before he died or years before he died?
About 12 years before he died.
And so did he learn to speak through a different method?
Yes, we went to New York City and stayed 5 weeks, and he took voice therapy and learned to speak by swallowing air. It was not a normal voice, but anyone could understand what he said. And he could talk over the telephone after I got the party on the line, and so he could do his business over the phone just as usual.
Well, that was a great accomplishment, especially back in those years. So then when you all married, I guess he already had this condition. Was that right?
Yes, that was right. I went to Rochester with him when he had the surgery done, and came back and took care of him for a while before we married.
He was a bachelor before you all married, wasn't he?
Yes, he was a bachelor.
And how did you all meet?
That's another story. We met when I was about 15 years old, and he came out and bought some cattle from my father. And, of course, I always helped with the roundup, too, and so I held the herd while they all went in for lunch. And when he got back, he told me, he says, "Now, little girl, you can go in for dinner, and I'll watch the cattle." And so he spent the night there, and he told my mother, after I come in, I pulled off my riding clothes and put on a nice fitting dress. So he told Mama, says, "Well, I thought that's just a little girl, and she's a young lady." My mother said, "Oh, she just thinks she's grown up." So anyway, he went on, and he told my uncle, he said, "When she grows up," said, "I'm going to come back and marry that little girl." But I married too young, and about a year from that, I married the Arlen Givens, my son's father. And we didn't meet then. After my husband died, he told my brother-in-law, said, "I'm going to see her again." And he did, but we met accidentally at a reunion down at Matador. And he wrote to me after that and started coming to see me, and we things happen.
That's a most interesting story. Now, you were then reared down in the Matador area?
No, I was raised, that was over in the Arch country.
Arch, New Mexico.
Yes. But I was born close to Matador, and we moved away from there before I was a year old. But my father was an old Matador cowboy, and so was Johnny, and that's how they knew him. So he bought the cattle from my dad.
So you were really born and bred on a ranch, and ranching has been your life.
Except after I married and raised my children in town. I married and raised them in town.
And how many children do you have, Miss Barnett?
2.
And who are they, and where do they live?
My son Warren lives here and operates the ranch.
And that's Warren Givens, right?
Right, Warren Givens. And then Arlen Givens, my younger son, lives in Espanola. He's with the nuclear testing company at Los Alamos.
How many grandchildren do you have?
4, 1 boy and 3 girls.
Any great-grandchildren?
3. I have 1 boy and 2 girls.
Oh, that's nice. I know that you enjoy your family, and I want to thank you and Charlie Barnett for inviting us out to talk with you this evening about the James Ranch home where you lived from 1952 through 1971, and remembering back those days that I know that you enjoyed and now you have such fond memories of. Thank you so much.
And I enjoy my life now with Charlie because he taught me how to fish now. So we go down and fish. Instead of cowboying, I fish now.
You're a fisherman now.
Yes, indeed.
Well, I bet, Charlie, if she could hold those cows down, that now she can hold the fish down and catch them. That she sure can, he said. Thank you both for inviting us into your lovely home and talking to us about your memories of bygone days.